Well, Minimax have come roaring back onto the AI video scene with the release of their long-awaited 2.0 update. And it's looking pretty good. Now, is this the VO3 killer that some were hoping for? Well, we'll see about that, but even as is, this is a very solid model that you're going to want to check out. Today, we'll dive in with some tests that I ran to see what it's good at, plus a gaggle of community output. Plus, we'll take a look at what's on the way for the model, and maybe most importantly, the cost. And I think you're going to be happy this time around. So it has been a minute, Minimax. From what I can tell, the last major update to the Hailuo MiniMax platform, at least on the video side, was way back in November of last year with the release of the director mode. Now, that is not to say that Minimax has been sleeping. In that interim time, we've gotten an updated audio model, and most recently this week, they've been celebrating a 5 days of Hailuo MiniMax, releasing the Minimax M1 LLM with a 1 million token input and 80K token output, all open source. But obviously through that time, a lot of us have been wondering, what's going on with the video model? Well, late last week, a mysterious new AI video generator, codenamed Kangaroo, popped onto the AI video leaderboards. It did not take very long for the hive mind to figure out that this was the Minimax 2.0 model, and luckily, we did not have very long to wait for it to drop. Off the bat, this new model is generating at 768 for either 6 seconds or 10 seconds, and you can generate at a full 1080p for 6 seconds. Currently, the model supports both text to video and image to video. It is missing some of the fancy bells and whistles, but again, it's launch day, so things like the effects presets and sound will be added in later. Although, since it is text-based prompt, director mode does seem to work. We'll take a look at that in just a little bit. And look, while I know that some of you might be bummed at the lack of native audio generation, they have noted that lip sync will be on its way, which I know is not quite what the VO3 thing is doing, but I do want to point out, although I am on record as being a pretty big fan of VO3, I'm not a fan of the price, but it's not like VO3 is always perfect. Take, for example...
Okay, you have to try this place when you visit Tokyo. The takoyaki here is absolutely incredible.
And look, maybe this character does have 3 arms, which would pretty much make her the ultimate selfie influencer. That said, I didn't prompt for her to have 3 arms. And while we might not have gotten the dialogue in the new Minimax model, I do want to point out that in terms of prompt coherence, it did get in the very end of the prompt, which says she ends with a cheerful thumbs up. So kicking off our test with our man in the blue business suit, who we last saw wandering around a desert trying to hitch a ride, but no one would give him a ride because, he's got his wolf buddy with him. Well, as it turns out, what looks like our guy was just on the outskirts of Vegas and has now found himself at a casino playing the slots. Overall, really impressed with this output. I did run it at 768 so that we did get a full 10 seconds out of it. In general, acting in terms of our guy is really good, and our wolf acting, very good. Clearly our wolf is like barking at him saying like, dude, let's stop wasting money here. Now, we do have a little bit of like chop and morph that's happening on the various slot machine reels here, but that's really picking hairs there. Other than that, background action looks really pretty good. Overall, this is a pretty impressive output. I did also want to test to see how the model would do in creating new and novel things. So for example, taking this image of this, woman assassin, clearly at a moment where she is deciding that she will be taking revenge after all, and then issuing the prompt that the woman would stand up, the camera would pan to the right, and we'd find another, a super agent dressed in black leather tactical suit. We ended up with this, which, that looks pretty good. Our guy there definitely looks very consistent in terms of style to, the overall scene. Yeah, this looks really great. On a subsequent roll with the same prompt, we get a very similar result. It's really pretty impressive considering that our guy here, stylistically is totally consistent with everything else in that initial opening shot. Another interesting test of the model creating something it does not have a reference for. Here are a group of cultists summoning a fire demon, as you do on a Friday night. The prompt here was for them to raise their arms, and the ground trembles and red mist swirls upwards, and then, our fire demon appears. That's pretty solid. We'll talk a bit more about camera movement in just a minute, but one thing I did want to point out in regards to these 10-second shots is, and I have noticed this across the board, this is a pretty simple, just kind of like dolly in shot. You'll notice, right there, at around like the 4.5, 5 second mark, we kind of get that blur in there. I have speculated that there's some sort of handoff happening that can go janky when you get into these longer extended clips. That said, one subsequent re-roll of the exact same prompt gave us this, in which, that blur does not happen. In fact, this is actually a really good output. So, I don't think it's going to happen very often, but just to note, that is a possibility. Now, in terms of text to video versus image to video, I do think that the text to video here is very good. For example, here is a 10-second text to video Bond-inspired shootout sequence. There's a lot to like in here. There's, really dynamic character movement, really dynamic camera movement. Yes, it does go a bit overboard with like the sparkiness and the squibs, but, text to video gonna text to video. The exact same prompt utilizing this as an input image yields us this, which admittedly is still a bit much. I mean, our Bond guy has pretty much a fully automatic handgun there. But there's still a lot that you can mine out of this particular output. In terms of the new model versus the old model, this was an image that we used when director mode first came out. The idea here was the woman stands up and walks away. This was a very popular generation for some reason. The old model would definitely give us a lot of like weird and morphy physics. And I think our winning output with the old model was actually this generation, in which our woman stands up and walks from one bar to the next bar. I'm not judging, just let's make sure that she gets an Uber home. The new version definitely does a lot better with this prompt. She does indeed stand up, turn around, and walk away. It does an interesting thing. I ran this in the 10-second mode, so around that 5 or 6 second, it starts kind of like pulling everything into soft focus, so it's actually a smart move there. But overall, really great output. And to note, yes, you can utilize director mode in here, essentially because it is, a text to video command. So just simply clicking on this, and you have a number of different camera presets that you can control here. In this case, we put a truck, a pan, and a tracking shot into this image. We ended up with this surreal shot, which is really pretty cool. We do indeed get our truck in, our tracking, and our pan. This is a really great shot. Testing coherency and just kind of overall imagination. This was a shot that I ran the first time around in director mode. So this is the old model with just the simple prompt of pan left. And at the time, we ended up with this, which I thought was pretty good. We do indeed pan left, and we showcase more of the scene. The new model, however, provides us with this, in which there is definitely a lot more dynamic movement happening with those ships moving around. We still get our pan left. We don't get that giant sci-fi city over there, but again, nothing was prompted. Just overall, obviously the new model has made some significant improvements. Fight scenes, always a fun test. Here we have a kung fu fight sequence. Still not quite there, but there's a lot actually to like about this as well. I gotta say, it does have some problems, but for the most part, there's a lot to like in here. There's an overall softness that does occur. There's a little bit of morph that you see right there with the guy in white, but overall, in terms of choreography and camera movement, speed, I think it looks really great, especially ending on this last shot here. That's great. The text to video output of that same prompt yields us this, which, again, it does have some of its same problems, but, overall, I think that what I'm most impressed with here is kind of where the camera chooses to end on that close-up, which is showing a bit of dramatic flair and a little bit of storytelling. I'll say one shot that I've always kind of been playing around with in the background is the opening to Orson Welles' Touch of Evil. It's like one of the most famous oneers ever committed to cinema. So, so taking this and seeing if we can recreate it. In the old model, I ended up with a shot like this, which, obviously does not quite work. But impressively, the new model does give us our handheld kind of like tracking in and our pedestal up. Now, is it an exact recreation? Of course it's not. But the opening shot of Touch of Evil is one of the most complex oneers like in the history of cinema. So I'm always kind of curious to see how far along we are in terms of AI video. And this is the closest we've gotten. A couple of grab bag examples before we move over to community outputs. Here is a kaiju fighting a robot in a city because kaiju fighting a robot. Here's a stylistic camera city exploration shot. This was just nothing more than panning around just to see if the model would hold the same style for this scene. And yeah, indeed, it does a pretty solid job here. And another stylistic hold of this character in this kind of like, hybrid animated style. Yeah, looks pretty great. Moving over to some community outputs, Tom Likes Robots gives us this fire-breathing dragon. Looks really impressive. Fire physics look on point. Dreamframe gives us, I don't want to call it a follow-up shot, but clearly, what the dragon ended up setting on fire, although I think he was aiming for that creepy scarecrow. Wuxia Rocks gives us this kind of like first-person POV alien invasion sequence. Yeah, this is pretty cool. Olo Renix gives us this pretty awesome driving shot with a quick zoom in into the driver, wearing a crash helmet, thinking we're about to see a stunt. BD Rocks gives us this clearly like 80s fantasy inspired shot, also showcasing that the model can spell. Not only that, but it's doing a really good job with, contextually understanding the style of, the font and the glow and that 80s glow. This is great. Pinto Creation gives us 3 shots, actually, that I presume are going to be cut together for some kind of short, all of which look pretty great. The last one, very much like showcasing like Hailuo MiniMax's acting ability. Speaking of emoting, our friend of the channel, Lupin Mix, gives us, well, crying. And this looks actually pretty good. We've definitely seen some outrageous waterworks with video generation in the past. Yeah, this looks pretty natural. I can only presume she's crying because her stuntman husband is about to wreck that Porsche. Lupin Mix also gives us this kind of like high energy New York editorial fashion output here. Yeah, this looks really great. AV gives us a really solid 360 here. I mean, we have definitely seen previous versions of this where, she goes full exorcist. Friend of the channel, Brent Lynch, gives us this scene from a superhero movie. This is really pretty good. I really particularly like the smile at the very end of this. Yeah, very cinematic. Stevie Mac gives us a glorious 10 seconds of this giant orc just plowing his way through nights. Yeah, I mean, I could watch this guy work all day long. Yeah, a lot of fun on this one. So overall, for day one, this is looking pretty good. It is really nice to have Minimax back. Now, in terms of cost, and again, at launch day, it does look like we are running a sale here for, it looks like 33% off on the monthly, 40% off quarterly, and 47% off yearly. If we take just say like the master plan here at $79 a month, you get 10,000 credits. And with each generation running 25 credits, and to note for 6 seconds, I presume that the 10-second version will cost a little bit more. And per ChatGPT math, that basically equates out to 400 generations. And then the cost per generation is actually a little less than 20 cents. So in terms of cost, yes, that definitely makes it the most cost effective, definitely coming in much lower than Kling and, well, God knows, coming in way lower than VO3. So if you've been interested in trying out Minimax, I would say now is probably definitely a good time to hop on. In the meantime, I'm going to continue exploring this model, see what it's good at, see where it's faltering. Definitely let me know in the comments if you want to see like a shootout between the major AI video generators. Maybe that's something we can take care of later on this week. Yeah, I mean, provided nothing else major drops. So we'll see, like 50-50 chance. In the meantime, I thank you for watching. My name is Tim.